Jackie, and I like to talk about some issues basically of management and also developing your personal relationships. Um, Whenever you do anything that transforms yourself or basically that is new, you're going to have people who are like you and you'll have people who hate you. The easy part, a lot of people find this surprising, is actually the first step. Because the first step is where you have the confidence, you have the drive, you have the spirit to do it. And that's where everything can happen. It's like in a talk on TED that Geena Rocco gave, who is transgendered as well, and worked in the modeling industry as well as opened some of her own businesses. It's important to realize that you have a lot to share, a lot to offer, and also you are you. Don't let anyone try to convince you. But the hardest part, many people who are trying something new or breaking forward, is that the first step is easy, but then the second step is hard, because it's like in the movie Pleasantville. Once you start the second step, those that will hate you will try to stop you, try to get a mob against you also, or they'll try to be very nice about this. Say, well, why don't we have a code of conduct? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? However, the code of conduct is for their benefit, but not for yours. So really, what the niceness is really meanness that's veiled. So the thing to do is when you have get into the second phase where people are starting to challenge you, just remember your confidence, remember who your friends are, remember who's there to support you. Also, it's like a Taylor Swift song, Mean. Someone who keeps switching sides is not someone to be with. And I mean, I give Taylor Swift a lot of credit for the songs that she writes. All of them are very inspirational and modern, and also very much help many people in many ways through music. Even though I'm in my 50s, I'm actually 52, I still like Taylor Swift's music and that, and some people sort of say basically I'm sort of an eternal teenager, but I do like listening to different styles. I do love Taylor Swift's music, also country and some rock and some roll, some rap, but if it's good rap, positive message, not the violent ones like that. But when you do something positive, you are going to have a bounce back, or some people call it a pushback, a fear barrier. What happens? You went through one, but someone may try to set up a second fear barrier. And the thing is, what do you do? Do you listen to it? Do you wait? Do you think? Well, maybe I can work with them. Maybe I can collaborate. Maybe no. Just do like what a lot of people had to do during before World War II, especially people in Salzburg. When someone makes an unreasonable request upon you, or wants you to do something unreasonable in society, you say no. Like many people in Salzburg, including my step-grandfather, when the Nazis wanted him to work on their atomic bomb program, in '38 he left Salzburg and never returned. And that's because basically he felt that was the wrong way to use his creative energy. The thing is, it's the same thing today, whether you're transgendered, whether you're LGBT, whether you're not LGBT. No matter how someone tries to isolate you or may try to marginalize someone, remember you have human rights, you have legal rights in many countries, United States and Canada. Some people may try to say, well, my theological rights supersede the constitutional rights. No. Constitutional rights are the law of the land. The United States is a constitutional country, not a theocratic religious country. And that's something to consider too, is when you're traveling, because if you are traveling to certain countries where they do have certain belief systems which may put you in danger, that's a country maybe not to travel to. Like for example, even though I think the African continent is beautiful, there's still some countries in Africa I wouldn't travel to because of their policies. Nigeria, Kenya, because basically it's You have to consider yourself. But when you do go through the middle test, just remember, just basically get enough rest, get enough nutrition, because that's very important. Because what happens, rest and nutrition, rest allows your mind to basically discombobulate, settle down, just resort through things. And nutrition helps your body and your mind work together, because if you don't have the proper nutrition, you're not going to make the right decisions anyway. The third thing is to remember is also isolation, because sometimes you have to have isolation because not everyone can live in a fishbowl. Not everyone wants to be transparent. I mean, even though you respect other people's privacy, other people may not, and that. And the thing is, that's where you need privacy, even if you are in a relationship or not. A thing to consider, though, is if you do have friends who are sort of being pulled on one side because of who you are or something else, it's important to talk with them about this, because the thing is, what happens, the pulling apart hurts them greatly. It's also going to hurt you greatly. And if you both really care about each other, you're not going to want to hurt each other just because someone is doing this indirectly. I mean, some friends that are friends with people who are LGBT and those who are transgendered and those who are not transgender, not LGBT, sometimes do get pushed or stressed by other friends, because they sort of say, well, you know, well, what's your relationship with? Are you friends? Are you roommates? Are you whatever? And what happens sometimes, they're pulled by their friends, even though the person who's LGBT is not pulling them. But the thing is, what you have to do, though, is you have to realize that if you are in a situation where there is like a menage a trois, not just necessarily in the traditional sense, but basically in terms of belief systems being pulled or something else, the two of you need to work out exactly where you stand. Are you going to support each other? Are you going to defend each other? Even if friends, are you going to support each other? Are you going to defend each other? A common thing that's used, like in the military, as in the Navy and Air Force, is a wingman. Some people may think of a wingman as in the Top Gun movies, as someone who flies basically on the side of one person when they're going to fly in a mission. But also in the Navy and in the Air Force, a wingman means someone even in the non-flying role who actually acts as support when they're doing a big project. Like when someone who's worked with the military says to someone, "I'd like you to be my wingman on this," that's an honor and a responsibility. And you'd be surprised, basically, with people who are transgendered, how many people in the military do support people who are transgendered, because it is the expression of human rights that you can be yourself and that you can serve your country openly and also support your country openly. And that, to me, that's one of the greatest freedoms any individual can have. In that, because if you're in a country where you have to hide, or you're in an area where you have to hide who you are and everything else, your friends and closest friends will know and see your anguish like that. And also, they'll wonder about, well, why are you so shy? Why are you afraid to talk with people? And that, and why are your friends sort of caught in the middle like that? And best thing to do is don't be. I mean, it takes courage to hide it, and it takes courage to be you. Sort of a little bit of a corollary to Susie Orman, where she says it takes courage to be rich, it takes courage to be poor. And that's true, because in money it takes courage to be rich, it takes courage to be poor. But also in developing yourself, it takes courage to be rich and courage to be poor, which is why I say it takes courage to be you. It takes courage to be you, and it takes courage to not be you. But if you're going to have to use courage, use it to be yourself. One thing I like to make a request to is to the cast of Fox News. I would like to make another request to appear on Outnumbered. I know basically, based on the format of your show, that it is traditionally four intelligent women and one man. But I think what happens having someone who is transgendered and that female coming on would help quite a bit, especially male to female transgendered, because Outnumbered has had a lot of good topics and has been very open-minded, even though some of my liberal friends tell me it's not. That's another point of being used is basically how do you evaluate something? Do you evaluate something strictly because a newspaper or newscaster or someone else says, well, we want you to vote for this candidate because he's Democratic or she's Democratic, or this side is bad because they're Republican, or this side listens to Fox News, and this side listens to MSNBC. I don't go by that. What happens, I live in Wisconsin, and when my parents were alive, one thing, we used to go and visit my aunt and uncle and my cousins in Madison. And what I always would do is, Madison at that time had two thriving papers. Wisconsin State Journal, which is known as the conservative Republican paper, and Capital Times, which is known as the liberal Democrat paper. And my mother also mentioned another thing about that the second paper in reference as to a point of view of journalism that's done many years ago. Well, what my parents did is, rather than tell me, saying, well, we don't want you reading the Capital Times, what they did is they did it this way. They said, okay, well, if you are going to read the Capital Times, we prefer that you put equal amount and equal intention into reading to Wisconsin State Journal. And with my parents always would explain things to me, and I accepted that. I was willing to give that a try. And it's important to explain things to your children, not to use corporal punishment on that. That's because my parents never believed in that and never did, which I'm glad, because that's what allowed me to be creative as well as my sister in that. But my sister went through some issues with other people who did try to do harsh things. But the thing is, in reading both papers, Wisconsin State Journal and the Capital Times, I was able to see his perspective on the same story, basically. Well, for example, what's common? What's different? Also allow me to separate what's opinion, what's speculation, what's bandwagon, what's cheerleading, and that's always been part of my thing, because every morning, even when I used to work at the Research Park in Milwaukee, I used to read the Chicago Tribune and Milwaukee Journal. I read the Milwaukee Journal in the morning when I had breakfast, and then I read the Chicago Tribune on the way up when I was taking the bus some days, or sometimes on my breaks. And a lot of people in Milwaukee say, well, you're reading the Colonel's paper. Well, yes, but the thing is, what happens, and some people would say, well, why don't you buy another one? So, well, I already read the Milwaukee Journal and that, and so, well, and the thing is, the reason why I read two papers is because I prefer having multiple points of view, even points of view that some people may consider objectionable. Because freedom of speech and also being an American means that you can say things as an individual that some may seem objectionable. You don't have a right, basically, to act upon certain things to harm people like that. For example, like people, we do have freedom of speech, but freedom of speech, like the Supreme Court mentioned in 1890, does not allow someone to run into a crowded place or crowd theater and yell fire and cause a panic. That is not freedom of speech. Nor is basically freedom of religion, meaning that someone can harass someone who's transgender, verbally abuse, attack someone who's transgender. No, freedom of religion means a person has the right to follow their religion, but however, they don't have a right to force that religion on other people. If they wish to follow that practice for themselves, that's fine. And also, freedom of religion means that someone has a right to have religion, or to practice a faith or not practice a faith, and without judgment. And that, in essence, the old term of sacrosanct. And that many people in the religious faith today don't understand what that term means, but sacrosanct is that something is said without judgment and without persecution. Because in the movie Dangerous Beauty, in the final scene with Catherine O'Hara and Rob Sewell, Catherine O'Hara is put before the Inquisition, and what happened was she's starting to tell what's happened, and she's telling the truth. And what happens, the people in the Inquisition don't want to hear the truth, and they try to stop her. And her friend and lover says, "I thought in the church that that confession is sacrosanct," and that's a very important point. But the point is, you have a right to live your life in other people. It's important. Basically, we can all live together. Some of the stuff I see about this extremism, like some churches that go and actually harass people or soldiers that are LGBT. That may be their interpretation of the Bible, but that's not mine. And also, it's one thing if they interpret it, but it's a different thing if they actually go to some place and actually are harassing people. I mean, like with the Westboro Baptist Church, because they actually made a visit to Kenosha a while back, and a lot of people in Kenosha were on guard with them, because the Kenosha community does have a lot of churches, and also there are many church members who do support LGBT in the Catholic faith, the Lutheran faith, Presbyterian, Methodist, First Congregationalist, Episcopalian. But the most important thing, though, is when you get to the middle phase, just charge forward. Keep going. Don't listen to the negative things. Don't believe the negative things people are saying, because it's like Geena, Rocco mentioned in a TED Talk. There comes a time when people will try to attack you, and they'll try to make you believe what they're saying, and don't. And I've gone through this. Other people have gone through this, and you actually are better being yourself and also living fully. And remember, transgender people as well as LGBT people, it's not a choice. It's actually hardwired into them as to why we are the way we are. But the thing is, there's certain rights and responsibilities, because even like friends of mine who I know in Florida and other things who are Republican and that they mentioned some things they saw like during certain pride parades, which well, you know, in a club setting, that's fine, you know, but basically in a public setting where there may be people under 18, that's a little bit too much testing the gray area there. It's important to understand the setting of where you are in public. I mean, that's, you know, anyone who goes to a club, whether they're LGBT or not, you know, there's certain behavior in a club that's accepted inside the club, but that's not accepted outside in the public where people under 18 are. So, but we do need to realize we can move together, we can move forward in that. Lastly, to the producers of Outnumbered, I'm still available to appear on the show. I'd be glad to answer questions. Let me know what you think. And for everyone listening, I wish to thank you for listening. Please feel free to contact me on Twitter at Diana1A or on Facebook at Diana, Diana Kanecki, Kanecki. Well, let me know what you think, and I'll talk with you soon.